The book of Asher, we're continuing on, starting with chapter 6 through 10. Chapter 6 goes over the animals, beasts, and fowls preserved in the ark. Noah and his sons and their wives are shut in. When the floods come, the people want to get in. Noah 1 year in the ark. Chapter 7, the generations of Noah, the garments of skin made for Adam stolen by Ham, and they descend to Nimrod, the mighty hunter, who become the king of the whole earth. The birth of Abraham. Chapter 8, the wise men of Nimrod by their divination foretell the evil that Abraham will do to Nimrod's kingdom, and they seek to kill him when Abraham is a child, with his mother and nurse, or hid in a cave for 10 years. Chapter 10 talks about when 10 years old, Abram, which is Abraham, goes to Noah and Shem, remains with them for 99 years, and is taught in all the ways of mighty God Ahiah. The wickedness of Nimrod and his people. They purpose to build a tower to heaven, the Tower of Babel, and dethrone mighty God Ahiah. The confusion of tongues. And chapter 10 talks about the descendants of Noah scattered over the whole earth, builds themselves cities. Chapter 6. At that time, after the death of Methuselah, mighty God Ahiah said to Noah, Go with thy household into the ark. Behold, I will gather to thee all the animals of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and they shall all come and surround the ark. And thou shalt go and seat thyself by the doors of the ark, and all the beasts, the animals, and the fowls shall assemble and place themselves before thee, and such of them as should come and crouch before thee shalt thou take and deliver into the hands of thy sons, and shall bring them to the ark, and all that will stand before thee shalt thou leave. And mighty God Ahiah brought this about on the next day. And the animals, beasts, and fowls came in great multitudes and surrounded the ark. And Noah went and seated himself by the door of the ark, and all flesh that crouched before him he brought into the ark, and all that stood before him he left upon the earth. And a lioness came with her two whelps, male and female, and the three crouched before Noah, and the two whelps rose up against the lioness and smote her, and made her flee from her place, and she went away, and they returned to their places, and crouched upon the earth before Noah. And the lioness ran away and stood in the place of the lions. And Noah saw this, and wondered greatly, and he rose and took the two whelps, and brought them into the ark. And Noah brought into the ark from all living creatures that were upon the earth, so that there was none left but which Noah brought into the ark. 2 and 2 came to Noah into the ark, but from the clean animals and clean fowls he brought 7 couples, as mighty God Ahiah had commanded him. And all the animals and beasts and fowls were still there, and they surrounded the ark at every place, and the rain had not descended till 7 days after. And on that day mighty God Ahiah caused the whole earth to shake, and the sun darkened, and the foundations of the whole world raged, and the whole earth was moved violently, and the lightning flashed, and the thunders roared, and all the fountains in the earth were broken up, such as was not known to the inhabitants before. And mighty God Ahiah did this mighty act in order to terrify the sons of men, that there might be no more evil upon the earth. And still the sons of men would not return from their evil ways, and they increased the anger of mighty God Ahiah at that time, and did not even direct their hearts to all this. And at the end of 7 days, in the 600th year of the life of Noah, the waters of the flood were upon the earth. And all the fountains of the deep were broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And Noah and his household and all the living creatures were with him came into the ark on account of the waters of the flood, and mighty God Ahiah shut him in. And all the sons of men that were left upon the earth became exhausted through evil on account of the rain, for the waters were coming more violently upon the earth, and the animals and beasts were still surrounding the ark. And the sons of men assembled together, about 700,000 men and women, and they came unto Noah to the ark. And they called to Noah, saying, Open for us, that we may come to thee in the ark, and wherefore shall we die? And Noah with a loud voice answered them from the ark, saying, Have you not all rebelled against mighty God Ahiah, and said that he does not exist? And therefore mighty God Ahiah brought upon you this evil, to destroy and cut you off from the face of the earth? Is not this the thing that I spoke to you for 120 years back, and you would not hearken to the voice of mighty God Ahiah, and now do you desire to live upon the earth? And they said to Noah, We are ready to return to mighty God Ahiah. Only open for us, that we may live and not die. And Noah answered them, saying, Behold, now that you see the trouble of your souls, you wish to return to mighty God Ahiah. Why did you not return during these 120 years, which mighty God Ahiah granted you as the determining period? But now you come and tell me this on account of the troubles of your souls. Now also mighty God Ahiah will not listen to you, neither will he give ear to you on this day, so that you will not now succeed in your wishes. And the sons of men approached in order to break into the ark, to come in on account of the rain, for they could not bear the rain upon them. And mighty God Ahiah sent all the beasts and animals that stood round the ark, and the beast overpowered them and drove them from that place. And every man went in his way, and they again scattered themselves upon the face of the earth. And the rain was still descending upon the earth, and it descended 40 days and 40 nights, and the waters prevailed greatly upon the earth, and all flesh that was upon the earth or in the waters died, whether men, animals, beasts, creeping things, or birds of the air, and they only remained Noah and those that were in with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed, and they greatly increased upon the earth, and they lifted up the ark, and it was raised from the earth. And the ark floated upon the face of the waters, and it was tossed upon the waters, so that all the living creatures within were turned about like pottage in a cauldron. And great anxiety seized all the living creatures that were in the ark, and the ark was like to be broken. And all the living creatures that were in the ark were terrified, and the lions roared, and the oxen lowered, and the wolves howled, and every living creature in the ark spoke and lamented in its own language, so that their voices reached to a great distance. And Noah and his sons cried and wept in their troubles. They were greatly afraid that they had reached the gates of death. And Noah prayed unto mighty God Ahiah, and cried unto him on account of this. And he said, O mighty God Ahiah, help us, for we have not no strength to bear this evil that has encompassed us. For the waves of the waters have surrounded us, mischievous torrents have terrified us, the snares of death have come before us. Answer, O my King Ahiah, answer us, light up thy countenance toward us, and be gracious to us, redeem us and deliver us. And mighty God Ahiah hearkened to the voice of Noah, and mighty God Ahiah remembered him. And a wind passed over the earth, and the waters were still, and the ark rested. Hallelujah. And the fountains of the deep and the windows of heaven were stopped, and the rain from heaven was restrained. And the waters decreased in those days, and the ark rested upon the mountains of Ararat. And Noah then opened the windows of the ark, and Noah still called out to mighty God Ahiah at that time, and said, O mighty God Ahiah, who didst form the earth and the heavens and all that are therein, bring forth our souls from this confinement and from the prison wherein thou hast placed us, for I am much wearied with sighing. And mighty God Ahiah hearkened to the voice of Noah, and said to him, When thou shalt have completed a full year, thou shalt then go forth. And at the revolution of the year, when a full year was completed to Noah's dwelling in the ark, the waters were dried from off the earth, and Noah put off the covering of the ark. And at that time, on the 27th day of the 2nd month, the earth was dried. But Noah and his sons and those that were with him did not go out from the ark until Ahiah told them. And the day came that mighty God Ahiah told them to go out, and they all went out from the ark. And they went and returned, every one in his way and to his place. And Noah and his sons dwelt in the land that mighty God Ahiah had told them. And they served mighty God Ahiah all their days. And mighty God Ahiah blessed Noah and his sons on their going out from the ark. And he said to them, Be fruitful and fill all the earth. Become strong and increase abundantly in the earth and multiply therein. Chapter 7. And these are the names of the sons of Noah, Japheth, Ham, and Shem. And the children were born to them after the flood, for they had taken wives before the flood. These are the sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madiah, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus, 7 sons. And the sons of Gomer were Ashkenaz, Rephath, Tegamah. And the sons of Magog were Elichaphna, Elichanaf, and Lubal. And the children of Madai were Achan, Zelo, Chazani, and Lot. And the sons of Javan were Elisha, Tarshish, Chittim, Dudanim. And the sons of Tubal were Ariphi, Kesed, Ta'ari. And the sons of Meshach were Dedan, Zeran, and Shabashni. And the sons of Tyrus were Benib, Gera, Lupirion, and Gilak. These are the sons of Japheth according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 460 men. And these are the sons of Ham: Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan, 4 sons. And the sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabata, Raama, Satecha. And the sons of Raama were Sheba and Dedan. And the sons of Mizraim were Lud, Anam, Pethros, Chesloth, and Chaphtor. And the sons of Put were Gebal, Hadan, Bina, and Adan. And the sons of Canaan were Zidon, Heth, Amori, Girgashi, Hivi, Orki, Sinai, Arodi, Zamodi, and Chemathi. These are the sons of Ham according to their families, and their numbers in those days were about 730 men. And these are the sons of Shem: Elam, Asher, Arpachshad, Lud, Aram, 5 sons. And the sons of Elam were Shushan, Machol, Harmon. And the sons of Ashar were Myras, Mokil. And the sons of Arpachshad were Shelach, Anar, Ashkol. And the sons of Lud were Pethor, Bizayan. And the sons of Aram were Uz, Chol, Gather, and Mash. These are the sons of Shem according to their families, and their number in those days were about 300 men. These are the generations of Shem. Shem begat Arpachshad, and Arpachshad begat Shelach, and Shelach begat Eber, and to Eber were born 2 children. The names of one was Peleg, for in his days the sons of men were divided, and in the latter days the earth was divided. And the name of the second was Yoktan, meaning this in his day the lives of the sons of men were diminished and lessened. These are the sons of Yoktan: Madad, Shelaph, Chazarmuvat, Urak, Hadaram, Ozel, Dikla, Obal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, Jobab, and all are the sons of Yoktan. And Peleg his brother begat Yan, and Yan begat Surek, and Surek begat Nahor, and Nahor begat Terah, and Terah was 38 years old, and he begat Haran and Nahor. And Cush the son of Ham, the son of Noah, took a wife in those days in his old age, and she bare a son, and they called his name Nimrod, saying, At that time the sons of men again began to rebel and transgress against mighty God Ahiah. And the child grew up, and his father loved him exceedingly, for he was the son of his old age. And the garments of skin which mighty God Ahiah made for Adam and his wife when they went out of the garden were given to Cush. For after the death of Adam and his wife, the garments were given to Enoch, the son of Jared, and when Enoch was taken up to mighty God Ahiah, he gave them to Methuselah his son. And at the death of Methuselah, Noah took them and brought them to the ark, and they were with him until he went out of the ark. And in their going out, Ham stole those garments from Noah his father, and he took them and hid them from his brothers. And when Ham begat his firstborn Cush, he gave him the garments in secret, and they were with Cush many days. And Cush also concealed them from his sons and brothers. And when Cush had begot Nimrod, he gave him those garments through his love for him. And Nimrod grew up, and when he was 20 years old, he put on those garments. And Nimrod became strong when he put on the garments of mighty God Ahiah, gave him might and strength, and he was a mighty hunter in the earth. Yeah, he was a mighty hunter in the field, and he hunted the animals, and he built altars, and he offered upon them the animals before mighty God Ahiah. And Nimrod strengthened himself, and he rose up from amongst his brethren, and he fought the battles of his brethren against all their enemies round about. And mighty God Ahiah delivered all the enemies of his brethren in his hands, and mighty God Ahiah prospered him from time to time in his battles, and he reigned upon the earth. Therefore it became current in those days, when a man ushered forth those that he had trained up for battle, he would say to them, like mighty God Ahiah did to Nimrod, who was a mighty hunter in the earth, and who succeeded in the battles that prevailed against his brethren, that he delivered them from the hands of their enemies, so may mighty God Ahiah strengthen us and deliver us this day. And when Nimrod was 40 years old, at that time there was a war between his brethren and the children of Japheth, so that they were in the power of their enemies. And Nimrod went forth at that time, and he assembled all the sons of Cush and their families, about 460 men, and he hired also from some of his friends and acquaintances about 80 men, and gave them their hire, and he went with them to battle. And when he was on the road, Nimrod strengthened the hearts of the people that went with him. And he said to them, do not fear, neither be alarmed, for all our enemies will be delivered into our hands, and you may do with them as you please. And all the men, there were about 500, and they fought against their enemies, and they destroyed them and subdued them, and Nimrod placed standing officers over them in their respective places. And he took some of their children as security, and they were all servants to Nimrod and to his brethren. And Nimrod and all the people that were with him turned homeward. And when Nimrod had joyfully returned from battle, after having conquered his enemies, all his brethren together with those who knew him before assembled to make him king over them, and they placed the regal crown upon his head. And he set over his subjects and people, princes, judges, and rulers, as the custom among kings. And he placed Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of his host, and he dignified him and elevated him above all his princes. And whilst he was reigning according to his heart's desire, after having conquered all his enemies round about, he advised with his counselors to build a city for his palace, and they did so. And they found a large valley opposite to the east, and they built him a large and extensive city. And Nimrod called the name of the city that he built Shinar. And mighty God Ahiah had vehemently shaken his enemies and destroyed them. And Nimrod dwelt in Shinar, and he reigned securely, and he fought with his enemies, and he subdued them, and he prospered in all his battles, and his kingdom became very great. And all nations and tongues heard of his fame, and they gathered themselves to him, and they both bowed down to the earth, and they brought him offerings, and he became their Lord and King. And they all dwelt in him in the city of Shinar. And Nimrod reigned in the earth over all the sons of Noah, and they were all under his power and counsel. And all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. But Nimrod did not go in the ways of mighty God Ahiah, and he was more wicked than all the men that were before him, from the days of the flood unto those days. And he made gods of wood and stone, and he bowed down to them, and he rebelled against mighty God Ahiah, and taught all his subjects and the people of the earth his wicked ways. And Mardon his son was more wicked than his father. And every one that heard of the acts of Mardon the son of Nimrod would say concerning him, from the wicked goeth forth wickedness. Therefore it became a proverb in the whole earth, saying, from the wicked goeth forth wickedness. And it was current in the words of men from that time to this. And Terah the son of Nahor, prince of Nimrod's host, was in those days very great in the sight of the king and his subjects. And the king and princes loved him, and they elevated him very high. And Terah took a wife, and her name was Amthilo, the daughter of Cornebo. And the wife of Terah conceived and bare him a son in those days. Terah was 70 years old when he begat him, and Terah called the name of his son that was born to him Abram, because the king had raised him in those days and dignified him above all his princes that were with him. Chapter 8. And it was in the night that Abram was born that all the servants of Terah and all the wise men of Nimrod and his conjurers came and ate and drank in the house of Terah, and they rejoiced with him on the night. And when all the wise men and conjurers went out from the house of Terah, they lifted up their eyes toward heaven that night to look at the stars. And they saw, and behold, one very large star came from the east and ran in the heavens. And he swallowed up the 4 stars from the 4 sides of the heavens. And all the wise men of the king and his conjurers were astonished at the sight, and the sages understood this matter, and they knew its import. And they said to each other, this only betokened the child that has been born of Terah this night, who will grow up and be fruitful and multiply and possess all the earth, he and his children forever. And he and his seed will slay great kings and inherit their land. And the wise men and conjurers went home that night, and in the morning all those wise men and conjurers rose up early and assembled in an appointed house. And they spoke and said to each other, behold, the sight that we saw last night is hidden from the king. It has not been made known to him. And should this thing get known to the king in the latter days, he will say to us, why have you concealed this matter from me? And then we shall all suffer death. Therefore now let us go and tell the king the sight which we saw and the interpretation thereof, and we shall then remain clear. And they did so, and they all went to the king and bowed down to him to the ground, and they said, may the king live, may the king live. And we heard that a son was born to Terah, the son of Nahor, the prince of thy host, and we yesternight came to his house, and we ate and drank and rejoiced with him that night. And when thy servants went out from the house of Terah to go to our respective homes to abide there for the night, we lifted up our eyes to heaven, and we saw a great star coming from the east, and the same star ran with great speed and swallowed up 4 great stars from the 4 sides of the heaven. And thy servants were astonished at the sight which we saw, and were greatly terrified. And we made our judgment upon the sight, and knew by our wisdom the proper interpretation thereof, that this thing applied to the child that is born to Terah, who will grow up and multiply greatly and become powerful, and kill all the kings of the earth, and inherit all their land, he and his seed forever. And now, our Lord and King, behold, we have truly acquainted thee with what we have seen concerning this child. If it seemeth good to the king to give his father value for this child, we will slay him before he shall grow up and increase in the land, and his evil increase against us, that we and our children perish through his evil. And the king heard their words, and they seemed good in his sight. And he sent and called for Terah, and Terah came before the king. And the king said to Terah, I have been told that a son was yesternight born to thee, and after this manner was observed in the heavens at his birth. And now therefore give me the child, that we may slay him before his evil springs up against us, and I will give thee for his value thy house full of silver and gold. And Terah answered the king and said to him, My lord and king, I have heard thy words, and thy servant shall do all that this king desired. But my lord and king, I will tell thee what happened to me yesternight, that I may see what advice the king will give his servant, and then I will answer the king upon what he has just spoken. And the king said, Speak. And Terah said to the king, Ayon, son of Mored, came to me yesternight, saying, Give unto me the great and beautiful horse that the king gave thee, and I will give thee silver and gold, and straw and provender for its value. And I said to him, Wait till I see the king concerning thy words. And he, behold, whatever the king said, that will I do. And now, my lord and king, behold, I have made this thing known to thee, and the advice which my king will give unto his servant, that will I follow. And the king heard the words of Terah, and his anger was kindled, and he considered him in the light of a fool. And the king answered Terah, and he said to him, Art thou so silly, ignorant, or deficient in understanding, to do this thing, to give thy beautiful horse for silver and gold, or even for straw and provender? Art thou so short of silver and gold, that thou shouldest do this thing, because thou canst not obtain straw and provender to feed thy horse? And what is silver and gold to thee, or straw and provender, that thou shouldest give away thine fine horse, which I gave thee, like which there is none to be had on the whole earth? And the king left off speaking, and Terah answered the king, saying, Like unto this has the king spoken to his servant. I beseech thee, my lord and king, what is this which thou didst say unto me, saying, Give thy son, that we may slay him, and I will give thee silver and gold for his value? What shall I do with silver and gold after the death of my son? Who shall inherit me? Surely then at my death the silver and gold will return to my king who gave it. And when the king heard of his words, Terah, and the parable which he brought concerning the king, it grieved him greatly, and he was vexed at this thing, and his anger burned within him. And Terah saw that the anger of the king was kindled against him, and he answered the king, saying, All that I have is in the king's power. Whatever the king desired to do to his servant, that let him do. Yea, even my son, he is in the king's power. Without value in exchange, he and his two brothers that are older than he. And the king said to Terah, No, but I will purchase the younger son for a price. And Terah answered the king, saying, I beseech thee, my lord and king, to let thy servant speak a word before thee, and let the king hear the word of his servant. And Terah said, Let my king give me 3 days till I consider this matter within myself, and consult with my family concerning the words of my king. And he pressed the king greatly to agree to this. And the king hearkened to Terah, and he did so, and he gave him 3 days and Terah went out from the king's presence, and came home to his family, and spoke to them all the words of the king, and the people were greatly afraid. And it was in the 3rd day that the king sent to Terah, saying, Send me thy son for a price, as I spoke to thee. And shouldest thou not do this, I will send and slay all thou hast in thy house, so that thou shalt not even have a dog remaining. And Terah hastened, as the thing was urgent from the king. He took a child from one of his servants, which his handmaid had borne to him that day. And Terah brought the child to the king, and received value for him. And mighty God Ahiah was with Terah in this matter, that Nimrod might not cause Abram's death. And the king took the child from Terah, and with all his might dashed his head to the ground, for he thought it had been Abram. And this was concealed from him from that day, and it was forgotten by the king, as it was the will of providence not to suffer Abram's death. And Terah took Abram his son secretly, together with his mother and nurse, and he concealed them in a cave, and he brought them their provisions monthly. And mighty God Ahiah was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up. And Abram was in the cave 10 years, and the king and his prince, soothsayers and Sadducees, thought that the king had, excuse me, I'm going to back that up to verse 36 again. And mighty God Ahiah was with Abram in the cave, and he grew up. And Abram was in the cave 10 years, and the king and his princes, soothsayers and Sadducees, thought that they had killed Abram, which is Abraham. Chapter 9. And Aaron, the son of Terah, Abram's oldest brother, took a wife in those days. Aaron was 39 years old when he took her, and the wife of Aaron conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Lot. And she conceived again and bare a daughter, and she called her name Milcah. And she again conceived and bare a daughter, and she called her name Sarai. Aaron was 42 years old when he begat Sarai, which was in the 10th year of the life of Abram. In those days Abram and his mother and nurse went out from the cave, as the king and his subjects had forgotten the affair of Abram. And when Abram came out from the cave, he went to Noah and his son Shem, and he remained with them to learn the instructions of mighty God Ahiah and his ways. And no man knew where Abram was, and Abram served Noah and Shem his son for a long time. And Abram was in Noah's house 39 years, and Abram knew mighty God Ahiah from 3 years old, and he went in the ways of mighty God Ahiah until the day of his death, as Noah and his son Shem had taught him. And all the sons of the earth in those days greatly transgressed against mighty God Ahiah, and they rebelled against him, and they served other gods, and they forgot mighty God Ahiah, who had created them in the earth, and the inhabitants of the earth made unto themselves at that time every man his god, gods of wood and stone, which could neither speak, hear, nor deliver. And the sons of men served them, and they became their gods. And the king and all his servants, and Terah with all his household, were then the first of those that served gods of wood and stone. And Terah had 12 gods of large size, made of wood and stone, after the 12 months of the year. And he served each one monthly, and every month Terah would bring his meat offering and drink offering to his gods. Thus did Terah all the days. And all that generation were wicked in the sight of mighty God Ahiah, and they thus made every man his god, but they forsook mighty God Ahiah, who had created them. And there was not a man found in those days in the whole earth who knew mighty God Ahiah, for they served each man his own god, except Noah and his household. And all those who were under his counsel knew mighty God Ahiah in those days. And Abram the son of Terah was waxing great in those days in the house of Noah, and no man knew it, and mighty God Ahiah was with him. And mighty God Ahiah gave Abram an understanding heart, and he knew all the works of the generations were vain, and that all their gods were vain and were of no avail. And Abram saw the sun shining upon the earth, and Abram said unto himself, Surely now this sun that shines upon the earth is mighty God Ahiah, and him will I serve. And Abram served the sun, the sun, in that day, and he prayed to him. And where evening came, the sun set as usual. And Abram said within himself, Surely this cannot be God. And Abram still continued to speak within himself, Who is he? Who made the heavens and the earth? Who created upon the earth? Where is he? And night darkened over him, and he lifted up his eyes toward the west, north, south, and east, and saw that the sun had vanished from the earth, and the day became dark. And Abram saw the stars and the moon before him, and he said, Surely this is the God who created the whole earth, as well as man. And behold, these his servants are gods around him. And Abram served the moon, and prayed to it all that night. And in the morning, when it was light, and the sun shone upon the earth as usual, Abram saw all the things that mighty God Ahiah had made upon the earth. And Abram said unto himself, Surely these are not gods that made the earth and all mankind, but these are the servants of God. And Abram remained in the house of Noah, and there knew mighty God Ahiah and his ways, and he served mighty God Ahiah all the days of his life, and all that generation forgot mighty God Ahiah, and served other gods of wood and stone, and rebelled all their days. And King Nimrod reigned securely, and all the earth was under his control, and all the earth was of one tongue and words of union. And all the princes of Nimrod and his great men took counsel together, Put, Mitzrayim, Cush, and Canaan, with their families, and they said to each other, Come, let us build ourselves a city, and in it a strong tower, and its top reaching heaven, and we will make ourselves famed, so that we may reign upon the whole world, in order that the evil of our enemies may cease from us, that we may reign mightily over them, and that we may not become scattered over the earth on account of their wars. And they all went before the king, and they told the king these words, and the king agreed with them in this affair, and he did so. And all the families assembled consisting of 600,000 men, and they went to seek an extensive piece of ground to build the city and the tower, and they sought in the whole earth, and they found none like one valley at the east of the land of Shinar, about 2 days' walk, and they journeyed there, and they dwelt there. And they began to make bricks and burn fires to build the city and the tower that they had imagined to complete. And the building of the tower was unto them a transgression and a sin, and they began to build it. And whilst they were building against mighty God Ahiah of heaven, they imagined in their hearts to war against him and to ascend into heaven. And all these people and all the families divided themselves in 3 parts. The first said, We will ascend into heaven and fight against him. The second said, We will ascend into heaven and place our own gods there and serve them. And the third part said, We will ascend to heaven and smite him with bows and spears. And mighty God Ahiah knew all their works and all their evil thoughts, and he saw the city and the tower which they were building. And when they were building, they built themselves a great city and a very high strong tower, and on account of its height the mortar and bricks did not reach the builders in their ascent to it, until those who went up had completed a full year, and after that they reached to the builders and gave them the mortar and the bricks. Thus was it done daily. And behold, these ascended and others descended the whole day, and if a brick should fall from their hands and get broken, they would all weep over it. And if a man fell and died, none of them would look at him. And mighty God Ahiah knew their thoughts, and it came to pass when they were building, they cast the arrows toward the heavens, and all the arrows fell upon them filled with blood. And then they saw them, they said to each other, Surely we have slain all those that are in heaven. For this was from mighty God Ahiah, in order to cause them to err, in order to destroy them from off the face of the ground. As they built the tower and the city, and they did this thing daily until many days and years were elapsed. And mighty God Ahiah said to the 70 angels who stood foremost before him, to those who were near to him, saying, Come, let us descend and confuse their tongues, that one man shall not understand the language of his neighbor. And they did so unto them. And from that day following, they forgot each man his neighbor's tongue, and they could not understand to speak in one language, one tongue. And when the builder took from the hand of his neighbor lime or stone, which he did not order, the builder would cast it away and throw it upon his neighbor, that he would die. And they did so many days, and they killed many of them in this manner. And mighty God Ahiah smote the 3 divisions that were there. He punished them according to their works and designs. Those who said, We will ascend to heaven and serve our gods, became like apes and elephants. And those who said, We will smite the heaven with arrows, mighty God Ahiah killed them, one man through the hand of his neighbor. And the 3rd division of those who said, We will ascend to heaven and fight against him, mighty God Ahiah scattered them throughout the earth. And those who were left amongst them, when they knew and understood the evil which was coming upon them, they forsook the building, and they also became scattered upon the face of the whole earth. And they ceased building the city and the tower. Therefore he called this place Babel. For there mighty God Ahiah confounded the language of the whole earth. Behold, it was at the east of the land of Shinar. And as to the tower which the sons of men built, the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up 1/3 part thereof, and a fire also descended from heaven and burned another third, and the other third is left to this day, and it is of that part which was aloft, and its circumference in 3 days' walk. And many of the sons of men died in that tower, a people without number. Chapter 10, the last chapter for today. And Peleg the son of Eber died in those days, in the 48th year of the life of Abram, so son of Terah. And all the days of Peleg were 239 years. And when mighty God Ahiah had scattered the sons of men on the account of their sin at the tower, behold, they spared forth into many divisions, and all the sons of men were dispersed into the four corners of the earth. And all the families became each according to its language, its land, or its city. And the sons of men built many cities according to their families in all the place where they went, and throughout the earth where mighty God Ahiah had scattered them. And some of them built cities in places from which they were afterward extirpated, and they called these cities after their own names, or the names after their children, or after their particular occurrences. And the sons of Japheth, the sons of Noah, went and built themselves cities in the places where they were scattered, and they called all their cities after their names. And the sons of Japheth were divided upon the face of the earth into many divisions and languages. And these are the sons of Japheth according to the families: Gomer, Magog, Medai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus. And these are the children of Japheth according to their generations. And the children of Gomer according to their cities were the Fracum, who dwelt in the land of Frenza, by the river Frenza, by the river Sinah. And the children of Rephath, or the Batonin, who dwelt in the land of Batonia, by the river Leda, which empties its water in the great sea Gihon. This is Oceanus. And the children of Tegorma, and 10 families, and these are those names: Bazar, Perzunak, Balgor, Elakanum, Ragbik, Tarki, Bid, Zebuk, Angal, and Tilmaz. All these spread and rested in the north, and built themselves cities. And they called their cities after their own names, those or they who abide by the rivers, Hiltla and Atalek, unto this day. But the families of Angoli, Balgar, and Pozanak, they dwelt by the great river Dubni, and the names of their cities are also according to their own names. And the children of Javan, and or the Javanim, who dwelt in the land of Macedonia, and the children of Madiar, or the Orilam, that dwelt in the land of Cursum, and the children of Tubal, or those that dwelt in the land of Tuscana, by the river Poshia. And the children of Meshach, or the Shebashni, and the children of Tyrus, and Rashash, Cushni, and Angolis, or these went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities that are situated by the sea Jebus, by the river Kura, which empties itself into the river Tragan. And the children of Elisha, or the Almanim, and they also went and built themselves cities. Those are the cities situated between the mountains of Job and Shishbatamo. And of them were the people of Lombardy, who dwelt opposite the mountain of Job and Shishbatamo, and they conquered the land of Italia, and remain there unto this day. And the children of Chittim, or the Romim, who dwell in the valley of Canopia by the river Tubiru, and the children of Dudomin, or those who dwell in the cities of the sea, Gihon, in the land of Bordinia. Excuse me for the names. These are the families of the children of Japhet according to their cities and languages, when they were scattered after the tower, and they called their cities after their names and occurrences, and these are the names of all these cities according to their families, which they built in those days after the tower. And the children of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan according to their generations and cities. And all these went and built themselves cities as they found fit places for them, and they called them cities, their cities after the names of their fathers, Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. And the children of Mitzrayim, and or the Ludim, Ananim, Lehabim, Naphtuchim, Pathrusim, Calslachim, Caphaturim, 7 families. All these dwell by the river Sihor, that is the brook of Egypt, and they built themselves cities and called them after their own names. And the children of Pathros and Casloch intermarried together, and from them went forth the Pelishtim and Azathim and the Gerorim and the Githim and the Ekronim, in all 5 families. These also built themselves cities, and they called their cities after the names of their father unto this day. And the children of Canaan also built themselves cities, and they called their cities after their names, 11 cities, and others without number. And 4 men from the family of Ham went to the land of the plain. These are the names of the 4 men: Sodom, Gomorrah, Admah, and Zeboiim. And these men built themselves 4 cities in the land of the plain, and they called them names of their cities after their own names. And they and their children and all belonging to them dwelt in those cities, and they were fruitful and multiplied greatly and dwelt peacefully. And Seir, the son of Hur, son of Hivi, son of Canaan, went and found a valley opposite to Mount Paran, and he built a city there, and he and his 7 sons and his household dwelt there, and he called the city which he built Seir, according to his name, that is the land of Seir unto this day. These are the families of the children of Ham according to their languages and cities, when they were scattered to their countries after the tower. And some of the children of Shem, son of Noah, father of all the children of Eber, also went and built themselves cities in the places wherein they were scattered, and they called their cities after their names. And the sons of Shem were Elam, Ashur, Pakshad, Lud, and Aram, and they built themselves cities and called the names of all their cities after their names. And Ashur, son of Shem, and his children and household went forth at that time, a very large body of them, and they went to a distant land that they found, and they met with a very extensive valley in the land that they went to, and they built themselves 4 cities, and they called them after their own names and occurrences. And these are the names of the cities which the children of Asher built: Nineveh, Rasim, Calach, Rehoboth, and the children of Asher dwelt there unto this day. And the children of Aram also went and built themselves a city, and they called the name of the city Uz, after their eldest brother, and they dwelt therein, that is the land of Uz to this day. And in the 2nd year after the tower, a man from the house of Asher, whose name was Bela, went from the land of Nineveh to sojourn with his household wherever he could find a place, and they came until opposite the city of the plain against Sodom, and they dwelt there. And the man rose up and built there a small city, and called its name Bela, after his name, that is the land of Zor, unto this day. And these are the families of the children of Shem according to their language, and cities after they were scattered upon the earth after the tower. And every kingdom, city, and family of the families of the children of Noah built themselves many cities after this. And they established governments in all their cities in order to be regulated by their orders. So did all the families of the children of Noah forever. And we're going to stop at that. Thank you for listening. We will continue with chapter 11 tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Amen.